Governors of over 7 states will be knowing their fate today as the Supreme Court will give the judgment for Zamfara, Plateau, Kano, Lagos, and 3 other states today. A lot of expectation, tight security in the various states just to make sure that everything will go as planned. So we'll love you to keep tight, and then we'll also keep you updated as the story keeps unfolding. The program is the Dailies and Echo Television International. I am Sela Elashidashim. I'm doing the program with Rachel Tansy. Good morning, Rachel.
Good morning, Sela.
You can see that I'm smiling seriously. Today is Friday.
It's Friday, Sela. It is.
Yeah, so you get to rest, stretch, and then
yes,
just
I'm
take care of
fresh
yourself.
before the next week.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Rachel. So we have quite a number of stories on the paper, and Rachel will be taking us through the first paper this morning.
On Nigerian Tribune, federal government to probe 33 billion naira Jakarta steel electricity debt. You can find details on page 7. Israel committing genocide in Gaza, South Africa, tells the United Nations Court. On 2024 budget, why federal government chose 750 naira to a dollar exchange rate, a statement coming from Bagudu. CBN appoints interim management for Union, Keystone, and Polaris Bank. Raji retires as GMD. Odua's investment UNISA takes over. Tinubu Fubara meet in Aso Rock. You can find details on page 5. The big story: as Supreme Court decides Zamfara, Plateau, Kano, 4 other governors no fate today. Governor Eno of Akwa Ibom wins judgment reserved in Ogun appeal. More details can be found on page 4. Lagos female banker kills self inside toilet. Nigerian pilgrims diverted to Rome and Greece over Israel-Hamas war. Falana decries police brutality. I take that story again. Falana decries police brutality as Lagos lawyers protest. Alleged $6 billion Mambila power fraud court grants Ogunloye 50 million naira bail. You can find details on page 8. And that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
Well, Rachel, there's quite a number of stories I just want to touch briefly. And I would love to start with the Lagos female banker that killed self in the toilet. And I know that this is a human angle story, but then it's very dear to me in the fact that I happened to read the story, and then I saw the picture, and then I also saw the suicide note the banker wrote. And a lot of people would have been surprised that, this is a banker, so possibly she might be earning some cool cash over there, and then to be able to meet some of her daily needs. But Rachel, this just point that people are going through a lot. People are going through a lot. I was listening to a psychologist, and she was talking the fact on how to control or actually maintaining mental health, and the fact that people are going through a lot. In fact, the fact that somebody is smiling with you never can tell what the person is going through. And then looking at her notes, saying the fact that nothing is working, hard times, in fact she's a mess, and a lot of times people just feel there's no reason to be alive anymore. And I really feel bad because not only are we having her, I think from last year we saw a number of suicide cases. People attempted suicide as well. A lot of people. I think we saw one in Lagos as well, where the man had to be rescued because he hung himself over the overhead, or was it the highway or something like that. But then he was being saved. So I just hope that we'll look out for each other. Regardless of how it is, reach out to people, call them. An SMS, 4 naira won't kill. You don't have SMS. Facebook, you have free mode. You can actually just reach out to people. You never can tell a word of encouragement can actually lift somebody from. And then if you have enough to share, especially looking at the inflation rate, looking at a lot of things, that people will just look for an easy way. Right now it has gotten that bad that people don't even want to use their hands to kill themselves. They rather stay and then just make in a way that instead of them killing themselves, they put the blame on another person. I've heard of someone that stayed under the car so he would be hit. If not because the driver was vigilant enough, he wouldn't have known somebody was actually there. So a lot of things are happening, and I really, really feel bad. I just hope that we'll have, the Nigerian government need to come out with something. A way of, I remember last year we saw where they were looking at the issue of drugs, but right now drugs is no longer the problem, I believe. We need to look into more practical means to actually handle all of these things. So I look forward to seeing that. Let's reach out to people. I think that's just the bottom line for me.
Sele, I think when people make a statement, money can buy you happiness, and then we cruise about it because it's like we're a cruise nation in Nigeria, and somebody will say, just dash me this amount and see if money can't buy me happiness. And I believe that this is a typical example, because regardless of what this woman is going through, you will find out that she is probably in a way better position than an average Nigerian. And still, yeah, she saw no reason to leave, because when we look at it, we will say, yes, of course, she's earning. We have people that don't even earn up to the minimum wage in this country and still have a reason to wake up every day and haven't thought of suicide, haven't seen themselves. We have people living on that bridge, Sele, and they did not kill their. They don't feel like a mess. They don't even know when their next meal will come. They don't even know if they will survive the next day. But for some reason, they don't feel like they should kill themselves. And then you find people in a better position feeling they have nothing. And this is where it takes us to say that you are happy because you are the right mental state, not because you have money. And this is where we will talk about mental health, because it is important. Because I keep saying that when you see people thinking they have nothing and yet they do have something, you know they're not mentally okay. You wonder, what is this person? I mean, there's worse happening to a lot of people, worse, very, very worse thing happening to other people. You find out that someone is even in captivity and yet is hopeful for life. You have been kidnapped with terrorists. You are being kidnapped and you know you can die. You know that these people can kill you. It's a very hopeless situation, but for some reason you're not even thinking of dying. You're still thinking of surviving. And yet you see people that are not even in that kind of situation thinking that the way out for them is dead. And then you just know that this has to do with where the person's state of mind is. And we really, really need to take that seriously. And it's very tricky, Sele, when it comes to suicide, because a lot of time, people who commit suicide look very normal. It's not written on their forehead, I'm about to kill myself. They don't even say it. They smile. They go about it. It's really tricky. But I believe that there are things that we can study to understand. And it's there for us. I think it's lack of just accessing the information, yes, that we need to. Because if I know you and I've been with you for a while, Sele, there are certain things that when it change about you, I should be able to know. When there's a little bit shift in the way you do things, maybe you even start smiling too much, Sele, it could be a problem. Too much, exactly. Or you stop eating for no reason. Or I find you always carried away in your thoughts. Or you even start acting happy and your happiness look a little bit questionable. I mean, she doesn't smile this much. What's the problem? Yes, because people try to hide, yes, buy over, exactly. And then, true. So we need to really, really watch out for one another, and don't take your once you start feeling like you are not yourself anymore, you should just try to get help. Try to get help before it eats you deeply, and then we will not be seeing these cases because it's heartbreaking.
Well, just like you rightly say, we have to be open to learning about this. I mean, it seems we have left the papers and then we're talking about mental health.
Yeah.
But I just hope that we'll start living, not just surviving, because that is what is happening in Nigeria. People are surviving, they are not living anymore. People are just waiting to just see the next day, and that's all. Now we're seeing Falana is talking about the issue of police brutality as Lagos lawyers protest, and then you wonder, I mean, you remember when we had the hashtag NSAS, and then a lot of people came out to actually express their grievances with the way the police actually acted. And I remember last year also, Rachel, we saw where the police said that you are actually permitted to scream down.
But
Either you snap a picture, you take a video of anything that is happening, whether good, bad, or ugly. And now we're seeing that if Falana is coming out to decry, that means it is serious. Because we know the way people are being treated. I mean, I've had issues of last man in Lagos, issues of police just treating you anyhow. You cannot look good, and then you are being accused to be into Yahoo business and all of that, despite showing a valid ID card or whatsoever. So I just hope that they will be called to order, because if it started, it's just a matter of time that we'll see other states will start coming out to say, you know what, this is also happening in Borno, this is also happening in Plateau State, this is also happening in Kaduna State. So I'm hoping that it will not just end here. If Falana is talking about it, and then we're having that lawyers that also even taking it to protest about brutality. That means it's a serious case. I remember, was it last 2 years where we saw a lawyer was being shot on Christmas Day on her way going to church with her family, and I don't know what happened to that police officer, quote unquote, or whatsoever. There should be a better way. I keep wondering the kind of training our police
He was
officers
dismissed and sentenced.
exactly, Richard. I mean, you work with civilians. You should have a subtle way of treating issues rather than taking, very
Why are you
harsh.
pointing your gun at an unarmed that's very wrong. That shows that you don't even know your job anywhere. And that was the case. What is your gun doing in a confrontation that the person, even if the person is holding a stick, Sele, is not a weapon. Your gun is not even supposed to be present in whatever confrontation you're having at that period of time. But for some reason, and these are the things that keep painting us black and then just keep putting us on the red list globally. And then one thing that I notice is that the Nigerian police are just the number one that will say one thing and mean something differently. Police is your friend, but growing up, they haven't been our friends that much. They will say, you have the right to screen grab. My mom was recently harassed, and it wasn't even any violent thing she was trying to record. She was traveling. There was a very bad collapse on the road, like a car blocking the road, and then she just tried to just video tape what was going on, just to send a video to show how they are trapped for like 5 hours when she could have already been home by that time. And then she was harassed. Her phone was literally seized from her by an officer, and he had to make it look like, you understand? And this was like 2 months after the police brought out a statement saying that you are free. Right, and it wasn't any confrontation between a police and someone that she was trying to record, just the situation there. And then you keep seeing this kind of unnecessary attitude coming from our law enforcement officers. And I keep asking, what is your training? What do they train them when they go for this police?
Presently, we are having recruitment of police right now.
What actually do they train them? Because I don't just get it. The training is very upside down compared to their behavior and what we see every day on the street. And I just hope that our law enforcement agency up their game in treating civilians. You can't treat people based on assumption. I can't just look good and you assume I'm a thief. That's very wrong. It shows that you were not well taught. In a lot of ways, you're just being an illiterate and just thinking things like that. So let's up our game in this country. You are a law enforcement, even if you enter with O-level certificate, you're supposed to be intelligent because it's expected that you went through some kind of training. So show us that you were trained, not like you were just given a uniform with guns and you're just on the street exactly doing nothing.
Well, we look forward to seeing. We just hope that they will actually do something about the issue of this brutality. That was why we had the SARS being changed. The name was changed from one thing to another. So we just hope that it's not about the change of the name, but the change in the attitude of the police officers as well. Let's take a look at the Metrics newspaper, where we have Bagudu gives reason dollars was benchmarked at 800 naira in 2024. Detail of that can be found in the paper. You can continue inside the paper. Nigerians with BVN hit 60.2 million, up from 58.7 million ahead of CBN deadline. Anxiety over lack of access to account growth. So for those who cannot access their account, it's important that you go check what the reason is. If you have not linked your account to your BVN, you've not linked it, then you should do the right thing, because without it being linked, you can't have access to your account. And on the issue of the Guba poll dispute, it's D-Day. Anxiety, tension, suspense as Supreme Court rules in Lagos, Kano, Zamfara, Plateau, and others. Sanwo-Olu, Yusuf, Oti, Dauda, Lawan, Mutfwan, and others to know their fate. Heavy security presence in Kano, Zamfara, others ahead of the judgment. I think I saw civil defense on my way coming to the office this morning.
Yes.
So you could check more detail of that also on page 2. And on Better Edu, APC governors caution against hasty judgments. IG orders more operative on Abuja Kaduna Expressway, especially when we see that kidnapping is back on that road, so something should be done. 60 illegal refining sites destroyed in 1 week, coming from the defense headquarters. And on the issue of Mohbad, I'm unable to sleep. Femi Falana Wumi are threatening to kill me. You can find more detail of that issue or allegation on page 15. Edugate Adeyeju urges EFCC to probe other ministers say almost all transfer money into private accounts. No grief for terrorists, perpetrators of insecurity, military charges Nigerians. You can find more detail of that inside the paper. We have the picture showing us anxiously waiting for Supreme Court judgment so they get to know whether they are returning or they are not returning. But Rachel, there's something I saw. The police plays the fact that there is this popular slogan going around right now, no grief.
No
I mean,
grief.
for every year we have a slang that actually goes with the year. And then this year we enter with a lot of no grief for anybody. And then to some people, the reason why they are using that slogan is different from the others. And I think most people believe it's just a way of like a positive way. I've even seen using of song and all of that. But we're saying the police is coming out to say the intelligence is saying that that slang or that slogan actually have some iota of terrorists. It says more like people are trying to start a revolution, and they believe that. I mean, they are still checking on that slang, even though they didn't stop Nigerians from using it. But from the way it's looking, looks more like Nigerians have to be very, very careful using that slang. Now, the reason why I said that here is we're saying no grief for terrorists, perpetrators of insecurity, military charges Nigerians. So, Rachel, I just want to hear your own view concerning the use of that slang. I mean, we had a number of slang that came up last year, and then this year we started with the slang.
I mean, Stella, I really, really wish the Nigerian police would really do their job rather than this whole slang thing. For real, like the Nigerian police will come out and give a statement that no grief for anybody sounds like a terrorist statement or a threat. This is very unintelligent coming from the Nigerian police. I don't care what their intelligence is or what their source is whatsoever. There is no terrorist attachment to this. It means, in fact, it started since last year. It just kind of walked into 2024 with us. And then you're sitting down when there are real issues on ground and you just want to take up a slogan that will probably die because very soon something else will trend, something new will be out there, and you want to carry it and just start. This is the brutality we're talking about. Tomorrow we will see people being harassed on social media. I mean, are you going to be arresting people on social media? Because people don't walk on the street saying no grief for anybody. This is a social media trend and is obviously going to die in social media. And this meme started with just certain, when you see the pictures that generated the whole no grief for anybody meme, you would know that it's just, I mean, I don't know, there's nothing tied down to terrorism with this statement in the real sense. If we're even going to follow its origin, and up to now, everybody have a even for that alone, it didn't start from a group. You understand? For us to say, okay, this group meant by something. It just a meme that went viral, and then everybody started using it, and everybody means it differently to whatever context that they are trying to use it. So, I mean, let the Nigerian police face the real issues in the country. Let them, please, face what really matters and just leave this, because it will obviously die. It is a trend on social media, and is not, it has a lifespan, and then it will soon be over, and we'll be forgetting that there was once a time no gree was a slogan in the country.
Well, I think if anybody is using that slang and then it's actually working toward doing any crime whatsoever, the police have the right to go arrest the person
when he is doing the crime.
When doing something wrong, using that no grief. But here we're saying, even Anitra saying no grief for insecurity. So they're trying to say they have to go after them. Now, even governors right now, they don't agree, and that's why they're in the Supreme Court.
Exactly.
So I just hope that, just like we said, we have more pressing issues at hand, and I'm hoping that, our security agency will do that. Now, today is a D-Day, Richard, and we're seeing that governors right now, their fingers are crossed. A lot of Nigerians, those who have sent in their prayers, those who have sent in their support, we're seeing that even security agents are making sure that, regardless of the outcome of this judgment, everybody have to maintain peace. And I've said this a number of times, and I'll keep repeating the fact that, these politicians do not care about you. They are just after their own ambition, and they are pushing it and driving it to as far as they can go.
Yes.
Do they do certain things that show that they care about the people? Of course they do. But then, would they care if you die tomorrow? Of course not, because some of them don't even know where your house address is.
They don't know you.
So why now kill yourself or put yourself in a position whereby you might even be harassed or being arrested by the police or the military because you decided to take a slank military and say that because your candidate did not win, you actually take it in the wrong context. So we hope that as we all await this, the doctors, sorry, the governors right now are just trying to keep their peace. So rather than getting involved in any form of chaos, fight, burning down properties, I think this is the time for Nigerians to go back, sit back and say, you know what, let us see and leave the Supreme Court. You trust the Supreme Court to do their bidding, right? So let the Supreme Court actually go ahead, even though we started that conversation yesterday, because today, finally, a lot of things will go to rest, whether it's your candidate or not your candidate.
We just have to be optimistic. The bottom line is no violence for anybody. We move. Regardless if you want a better state in whatever state you are in. That is, whoever emerges, you leave that beside and then now start rooting for this person and say, you know what, we hope your administration favors us at the state level. Just as how everybody is hopeful that Tinubu's administration will favor us regardless of whether we feel that the justice system failed us or not. No. As it is now, Sele, with all that has been happening, I don't think Nigerians trust the judiciary anymore. We are just waiting for an outcome that, you know what, we have no option but to stick with it. And then we have to stick with it regardless. And that's just the spirit I am looking forward to in every Nigerian.
Well, let's just wait and see how this whole thing will unfold. Yeah. And that's all on the Metrics newspaper.
On First News newspaper, meningitis killed 190 Nigerians in 1 year. A report from NCDC. 2024 budget, how we settled for 800 naira to a dollar exchange rate coming from the federal government. CJN Ariola to swear in 11 Supreme Court justices next week. $6 billion Mambila contract cut grants ex-Power Minister Ogunloye 50 million naira bail. Female banker commits suicide in Lagos over economic hardship. The big story, election dispute. Supreme Court decides 7 governors' fate today as Apex Court delivers judgment on appeals against Sanwo-Olu, Yusuf, Mutfwang, Mohammed, 3 other governors. Cardinal Police warn against violence over Supreme Court verdict, vow to tackle agitators. And on Ogunguba, Supreme Court reserves judgment as PDP seeks fresh election in 99 polling unit. Certificate forgery, Supreme Court dismisses APC, YPP, NNPP petition against Akwa Ibom governor. Tinubu Fubara in closed-door meeting at Aso Rock, governor says visit private. CBN appoints new CEOs, executive directors for Union, Keystone, and Polaris Bank. At the downside of the paper, troops killed 86 terrorists, apprehend 101 in 1 week, a report from the defense headquarters, and we are looking forward to the numbers increasing. And that's all the news on First News newspaper.
On Nigerian News Direct, UBA unveils new digital offering as chatbot clocks 6 years. You can find detail of that on page 8. Lagos lawyers protest brutality on lawful detention. You can find that also in the paper. Over 60 million Nigerians register for BVN ahead of deadline. And at Ajaokuta Steel Mill, we have federal government to probe 33 billion naira electricity debt. Targets fresh 35 billion naira investment with the rider as Tinubu approved restart of light steel section. You can find detail on page 3. After 10 years of metrocrucial service, Raji bows out as Udwa's GMD. Adeleke banks on revival of cocoa production to boost economic fortunes of Osun. You can find detail of that also on page 8. Supreme Court reserves judgment in Ogunguba affirms Governor Eno's election. Detail on page 2. We have a picture story on the front page of the paper. Do well to grab the paper in more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
A New Telegraph, the big story, 8 governors, no fate today as Supreme Court delivers final verdict. On appeals challenging Kano, Bauchi, Nasarawa, Cross River, Plateau, Delta, Lagos, Abia election, reserves judgment in suit seeking to nullify Governor Abiodun's election, affirm Eno as Akwa Ibom governor. Police warn against violence in Kano, Ogun Governor's aides go spiritual. You can find details on page 2, 4, 6, and 26. At the top of the paper, national carrier, federal government in talks with Boeing, orders for cheaper leases, warns aviation agencies chief against non-performance. You can start with the details on the front page. And from the federal government, why we benchmark dollar at 800 naira in 2024 budget. Army debunks arrest and killing of Fulani in Kaduna forest. Tinubu meets Rivers governor in Aso Rock. You can find details on page 2. Alleged $6 billion fraud court admits ex-minister Ogunloye to 50 million naira bail. Kano dry port will decongest Lagos. You can find details inside the paper on page 7 and 28. Supreme Court judgment, Kano disbands medical and legal teams. Rather, Kano disbands medical and legal team. Current hardship demands 60% cut in governance costs and travels, a statement coming from OB. Nigerian artisans best world ever, coming from the ITF Director General. You can find details of his statement on page 2. PGF meeting silence on Akeredulo's death. You can find details on page 4. Federal government to probe Ajakuta Steel Company's 33 billion naira electricity debt to source 35 billion naira locally to restart section of plan. Expects $5 billion investment. You can find details on page 3. And at the downside of the paper, we have a study that links forever chemicals to disease risks in unborn children. So for those of us who are consuming forever products, you might be watchful. You can find details on page 26, and that's all the news on New Telegraph newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, Usu Lawan give AFCON tips to Super Eagles. Goal winners reflect on strategies. Dita fan on page 13. Meningitis break out in Ogun, Ekiti, Ondo, Oshun, and others. We hope that the Commissioner for Health in these various states will take this very seriously and do something to actually bring it down. Possibly the weather is getting quite cold, and then the dust and all the change in climate, so they should do something about that. Strong forces for deployment against bandits and kidnappers. You can find that on page 5. Road project contractors get green light on 1.5 trillion naira payment. Minister frowns as workers quit site during yellow tie. Expert in caution optimism on shake-up of banks by the CBN. You can find detail of that story in the paper. Edo primaries tempo rise with PDP central endorsement of Agodalo. You can find that also on page 27. Anxiety in 7 states as Supreme Court delivers judgment. It's decision day for Plateau, Kano, Lagos, and others. And Eno triumphs, that is, he was retained. And we have a caption here that said, we have mobilized sufficient armed personnel to provide security at all flashpoints, including political party offices, government house, INEC headquarters, banks, commercial areas, mosques, churches, recreational centers, and motor parks. So I think it will be safe, Rachel, to say that, I mean, if you don't have any business in any of these places, just stay back in your house. Yes. Because there's no security agent in your house, but there's security agents in these places where the security force feels that it might be of threat. Because if my party did not win, I will be after INEC or after the bank or after the church or the mosque regardless. So I think it will be safe that we relax and let the court do their work. The outside of the paper, we have process for revival of Ajakuta steel mill begins, says the minister. You can find detail of that on page 7. And that's all on the Nation newspaper. But before we continue further with other paper analysis, we'd love to take a break at this moment so we can let you through the stories, and then you can also, call us with the number that I'll be giving you later when we're back from the break, and also drop your comment on Facebook and on YouTube. Please stay tuned with us. We'll be right back.
Democracy is the theory that common people know what they want and deserve to get it good and hard. Join me every Friday, 7 p.m. on National Talk for analysis as well as in-depth perspective on issues as they unfold in and around Nigeria, as well as an opportunity to add your voice.
Thanks for staying tuned. It's still the dailies. We have been looking at a number of stories where we see that about 8 governors will know their fate today. And then also we're seeing security agencies are actually being situated in various places to avoid any outbreak or any break of order that will happen in the state. We're also seeing quite a number of other stories on the paper where, I mean, our Super Eagles have been giving tips on how they can actually win the cup. It's not all about having good players, but they need certain, tips that they need to actually win. We have quite a number of stories. We'd love you to give us your own views about it and your own feedback on what you feel is better. I still have Rachel Tanzer with me. Thank you, Rachel.
You're welcome, sir.
All right. Remember, the number to call is displayed on your screen. You can call us. We'd love to hear what your own views are concerning any of the story. Please remember that you should reduce the volume of your TV set, or you can actually off the TV set so we can hear you clearly here in the studio and, try to summarize your point at least or at most in a minute so that other viewers can also get to call in and air their views. Let's take a look at the next paper. I think we have a call. Hello, good morning.
Yes, this is Sam.
All right, Mr. Sam, good morning.
Yes, I was nice.
It was
That's
great.
fine,
Thank
sir.
you so much, sir.
Okay, it's nice seeing all of you this morning. You are looking splendid.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
The
very
Lord
much.
is good.
Love to hear from you.
Yes, ma'am. My take this morning is on the judgment of the various governors.
Okay.
Yeah, while we wait in anticipation and threat taking, I want to look at the angle that it's unfortunate that after all the effort of getting your INEC PVC, all that needed to be done would be on queue to do the election. It will boil down to just few judicial men to be able to decide our fate. This should not be the direction of our democracy. Ideally, our results should be declared, and it is fairly declared after the election so that we can be able to jubilate. Now, a lot of decisions have been taken by this governor. Some of them, they are maybe told to go. Now, when a decision now comes and a new governor comes, everything starts all over. So we pray that with today's judgment, our election should be able to take a proper direction, that we can do election, the result will be properly declared, and everybody will agree, and then we move on. Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
Mr.
very
for that
much.
intelligent contribution. And I think we said that yesterday, Rachel.
Yes, we
I
did.
mean, if only we have the electoral body and everybody is supposed to do his or her work, just do it. We'll not have the court determining what the people want eventually. That when the people actually say, this is who we want, by their vote, that will just be it. We don't have to go to court and do all of that. So we look forward to seeing
do
those
say
steps
that.
being put in place. Well, let's take a look at the next paper, Rachel, before the calls continue.
On the Daily Independent, Independent Awards will spur me to do more for Yobe people, a statement from Buni. The big story, $800 million block funds. We may stop operating into Nigeria, foreign airlines warn. Say $61 million payment is a drop in the ocean, and I would agree. Don't be in a hurry to condemn Beta Edu, coming from APC governors. Lawyers hold massive protests against police brutality in Lagos. Tinubu gets brief on prospect of $10 billion investment in steel sector. Our target is to get more governors, legislators into APC fold, a statement from Ganduje. Shaibu Igadalo, Akwaibu, others pick governorship form. You can find details on page 57. And on Guba appeals, tension in Kano, Plateau, 6 other states as Supreme Court gives ruling today. Affirms Eno as Akwa Ibom governor, police deploy armed personnel in Kano. Bandits kill Kasina village, head 2 sons and 6 others. You can find details on page 6. That's all the news on Daily Independent.
On the Guardian newspaper, Renew Hope Agenda, after honeymoon tales of wolf frustration trace Tinubu's policy. And here it's in the burden of financing political class lifestyle, and then some of the expensive travel, renovation of residence, purchase of the SUV for politicians, and then profligate expenditure and corruption, which we're seeing the Guardian is trying to look at it. So you can read more detail. Remember that just recently the president has reduced the delegation that will be following him in a bid to actually cut down the cost of governance. Still on the Guardian newspaper, Dangote refinery to reach full capacity in June as crude demand up by 2 million barrels per day. It's a business story on page 24. Female banker commits suicide in Akorodu, blames economic hardship. Schools, bank and others shot as Supreme Court decide Kanu governor. You can find that on page 29. Terrorists kill community head, 9 others abduct women in Castina. And on the 2024 budget, why we settled for 800 naira to a dollar benchmark coming from the minister. You can do well to find why on page 6. And we have CISLAC fault Aneta appointment as OB insists no sacred cows. More detail of that can be found on page 6. And that's all on the Guardian newspaper.
On the Punch newspaper, Humanitarian Ministry, EFCC summons 20 directors and others. Tension in Kano as Supreme Court decides Yusuf's fate today. Former industrialist Okoya clocks 84, advises federal government on economy. The big story, Union Polaris Keystone CBN plans shareholder summit compiles new directors list. Apex Bank to discuss bank's future with stakeholders. New chairman EDs to be named soon. You can find more details on page 18. And we have a picture story. Lagos NBA protesters storm police headquarters over brutality against lawyers. And we can see some of the things on their placard saying, assault a lawyer and go to jail. Widow of soldiers killed in 1992 plane crash demand compensation. We have netizen mourns as female banker kills self, pens suicide note. TB Joshua mailed childless couples to exchange spouses. This is based on the new documentary released by the BBC. You can find details on page 3, and that's all the news on the Punch newspaper.
On Daily Sun newspaper, burial law Soludo Catholic Church on warpath. Respect yourself. Archbishop Okeke warned governors. You can find detail of that story on page 27. Judgment Day for governors, which is the big story. Supreme Court rules today on Lagos, Abia, Cross River, Bauchi, Ebonyi, Zamfara, Kano, Plateau, Guba petitions. Dismisses APC, YPP, and NPP's appeal against Akwa Ibom governor. Reserve judgment for Ogun and Adamawa. You can find detail on page 6 and 8. Tinubu approves committee to revive Ajaokuta steel plant. And 2024 budget, how we settle for 800 naira to dollar benchmark coming from the federal government. My book unveils untold story of Buhari's 8 years in office coming from Femi Adesina, Tinubu, Jonathan, Osinbajo, Gowon to grace the book launch. You can find detail of that on page 26. Wike issue threat over Abuja light rail. CBN names new board management for Union Polaris Keystone Bank. And the trapped $700 million foreign airlines threatening to exit Nigeria soon, says the AFARN. You can find detail of that on page 25. While we're having another paper, it said $800 million. Daily Sun here says $7 million. We hope that they verify the exact amount the government is owing this falling foreign airlines. And still on the issue of the Humanitarian Affairs Ministry, don't spare anyone involved, Obi tells Tinubu. Sultan direct Muslims to watch out for new moon for Rajab. You can find that on page 8. We have a picture story where we can see U.S. hands over anti-human trafficking office to Lagos government. You can find more detail of those who were there and also how we can help the country. And that's all on Daily Sun newspaper.
On the Vanguard newspaper, 2024 budget, how we settled for 800 naira to dollar exchange rate coming from the federal government. Nigerian can't make progress without true federalism, a statement from Obong Atta. You can find details on the front page and continue inside the paper. Edugate APC governors Peter Obi back Tinubu on probe. Governors ask Nigerians to be patient, says Tinubu will take final decision after investigation. as APC professionals support president's move to send strong signals to government officials. Don't spare anybody, Peter Obi tells Tinubu. You can find more details on page 5. And on attacks in Benue State, we have Governor Ali Abbas, local government chairman, from leaving domains. Alleged $6 billion fraud, ex-power minister Ogunloye gets 50 million naira bill. New bank CEOs will boost confidence, coming from NECAA SSBIF analyst. You can find more details on page 20. We have a column by Awila Kemfa on page 17, and then a sports column on page 31 concerning the 2023 AFCON. Another injury scare for Eagles as Umar misses training. We have a picture story where we can see the Minister of Mines and Steel Development together with the Minister of Defense visiting the President in Abuja yesterday, and that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
On the Voice of Liberty, no grief for terrorists in 2024. Defense headquarters urges Nigerians. Slogan can cause crisis, police warn. You can find detail of that in the paper. Still on the 2023 African Cup of Nations, Super Eagles squad tops the list of most valuable team. We hope that that doesn't get into their head, but rather they will do their best to represent the country right over there. And coming from Katsina State, rampaging bandit in shooting spear kill village head, 2 sons and 6 others in Jabia local government. You can find that inside the paper. And on the election petition, Supreme Court to deliver judgment in 7 or rather 8 governorship disputes today. You can find detail of that in the paper. And coming from Borno State, ISWAP militant chop off fishermen's hand over failure to pay tax and theft. And we just hope that the security agency will do something about this. It's becoming very, very ugly, and then we just hope that they can rectify that issue as soon as possible. Still on the issue of the 585 million naira fraud, Tinubu will take final decision after investigation. This is coming from the APC governors. We have dislodged insurgent strongholds in the northeast and southwest. This is coming from the army. Rather, we love to hear from the residents and indigents of these various places. Anxiety among ministers as Tinubu plans cabinet reshuffle. 5 ministers could be dropped. This is coming from sources because, of course, Rachel, you and I mentioned the fact that if the president was after, or rather we're having the issue of the humanitarian affairs, just a matter of time we'll begin to hear more. Because here we are seeing they said, I mean, she might not be the only person. A lot of people have been using private accounts to do certain transactions, which is criminal. So we just hope that we'll get to have a transparent government. That is just the desire of everyone. And that's all on the Voice of Liberty.
On this day newspaper, starting with the big story, Supreme Court delivers verdict on Kano, Plateau, Lagos, and 4 others today. Tight security in Kano amid fear of protest. Court reserves judgment in Ogun. Respite as Apex Court upholds Eno's victory. $800 million trap fund, foreign airlines miffed with federal government over $61 million paid, says it's insignificant, threatening to review operations in Nigeria. Tinubu receives briefing on $10 billion investment in nation's steel sector. More details can be found on page 5. And then we have a news review that says interrogating Union Keystone Polaris Board's dissolution. You can find details on page 5. Coming from OB, current economic reality demands 60% cut in overall governance cost. And I hope that the federal government cut down more other expenses, not only for that of traveling seller, but we have many other things. We need to look into fragrances that cost 7 million and vegetables that cost 44 million and extinguishers that cost almost 100 million naira. You know, we need to look at all of these kinds of outrageous budget. We shouldn't just stop at the federal government level, but we should take it down every level where governance exists. And I just hope that eventually we will start seeing a budget that personal cost is not gulping the chunk of it. You can find details on page 34, still having a picture story where we can see briefing the presidents on China visit. We're seeing the defense minister and then the minister of steel and mining also. And that's all the news on this day newspaper.
On the Friday leadership, the big story, Supreme Court judgment On scam in Kano, Plateau and Zamfara, police beef up security. PDP declares prayer fasting. APC urges scam. Apex Court reserve judgment in Ogun appeal. You can find detail of that on page 14. And then also on page 4 rather. And then we have bank board dissolution. Analysts see clarity as customers panic. We remember yesterday after that, a lot of panic definitely was expected, but we saw where CBN said for those who are actually banking with this bank, they have no cause for alarm because their funds are actually safe. Still on the Friday leadership, we have Betty Gate mere allegation. Let's wait for probe report coming from the APC governors. Also, we have there were deceitful narrative against Buhari coming from Femi Addition. I think that's regarding the book launch that we'll be holding. You can do well to find more detail on page 6. We have 2 picture stories on the front page of the paper. Do well to grab the paper in more detail of any of the story that is of interest to you.
On Daily Struggle newspaper, South Africa says Israel's response to Hamas operation breached genocide convention. No armed attack, no matter how serious, could justify Israel's response. You can see details on page 3 where they took this case to the war crime court, and that is that of the United Nations. We saw this starting weeks ago since 2023, and we are walking into 2024 with South Africa taking Israel to the United Nations court. Dangote reacts to EFCC visits to its headquarters, says EFCC only visited and not raided head office. Zamfara governor presides over Executive Council meeting, pledges full implementation of 2024 rescue budget. Ahead NEC meeting, North Central moves to regain APC national chairmanship. CBN appoints new executives for Union, Keystone and Polaris banks. We have Anyanwu resumes as PDP National Secretary. Tinubu appoints board members for Hajj Commission. Tinubu big stick as sign of what to come. You can find details inside the paper, and that's all the news on Daily Struggle.
All right, let's take a look at Nature News, where we see Governor Eno seek federal government support for Akwa Ibom deep sea port revival. Detail of that can be found on the front page and on page 3. And on Nature Fact, planting red apple with Colgate toothpaste. You want to know how you can actually achieve that? You can read that on page 13. And we have Epe farmers protest harassment and seek help from Lagos government. And CSO seek Kaduna government to develop policy on climate change. Abuja experiences growth in horticulture gardening. And we have federal government seek verifiable list of farmers in Nigeria. Federal government reaffirms commitment to achieving food security. And we have traditional and health function of blessed thistles. You can find that on page 15. We have the big story here that says Borno government set up panel on farmers and herders conflict. And I think that should not just be in Borno, but in any other state that we've been having the issue of farmers herders conflict, even though there have been dialogue and all of that, and then it seems not to be making any headway. But I think it's important that more attempts should be made on how we can have a lasting peace, especially when it comes to the issues of farmers, herders, conflict. And that's all on Nature newspaper.
On Punch Sport Extra, the big story, meet you at Depoju exclusive. I don't know what the Eagles must have seen or learned before now, but what I can say is that it is not enough to have good players playing very well in their club. That is to say, talent is not enough. My AFCON winning tips for Eagles. Eaglets not ready to win AFCON. A statement coming from Ideye, we could have all died, coming from Gambia coach on flight scare.
Hello. I just want to talk the farmer header clause just briefly, please. I think the issue of farmer and the header will be brought to bear and resolved if we give it the proper narrative. This farmer header class is a wrong technology. That is no clash at all. What is happening is that is the issue of people who, head their cow and now into the farm. And so the header will be told that, look, you should be able to demarcate between farm and where you have an open grazing area. What we understand by clash is when people came out and face each other and fight. It is not when people maroon and go into a community and kill people. We started from when the farmer said, no, please, don't enter my farm and eat my own livelihood. And then the farmer, the Hema, the Fulani, or the header, now say, no, I have right to eat whatever. Please, we should not give it this narrative of a farmer header clash. It's not a clash. It is one person, an aggressor. Please, for the benefit of the peace in our country, we should give dog it, not, the proper name. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir, for your contribution.
I mean, I believe, Sele, the government kept on using the word clash in order not to make or to tag these herdsmen as criminals, as terrorists. So it's a clash, but when you look at it in the real sense, there's no clashing. It's just trespassing, because it would have been a clash if, I mean, the farmers, just as our caller said, and then the headers meet at some point and had a misunderstanding. But that's not the case. We just have farmers being killed on their farms because they are saying no to trespassing, and then they end up losing their life for speaking up against trying to protect what's their own. I just hope the Nigerian government take the bull by the horn, call a situation what it is, and fight it as it is, rather than beating around the corners. Now, still on our sports paper, we have Iheanacho to join Eagles Saturday, Sadiq doubtful. Boniface Hills, Alonso, Zaha, impact. You can find more details on page 7. Pochettino rigs Blues sacking, Greenwood wins Getafe December award. Igano to earn over $10 million from Joshua Burt. And then at the downside of the paper, ex-England coach Ericsson battles cancer. Aku eyes wrestling gold at African Games. We have Arsenal urged to sign Osimhen over Tony. You can find details on page 7. And that's all the news on Punch Sports Extra.
All right, let's round up the show by taking a look at the Business Day newspaper. Inera goes on CBN stable coin. You can start reading that on the front page and continue on page 2. From takeover to dismissal, timeline of changes at Union and Keystone and Polyrace Bank, talking about the reshufflement that took place and those who were being sacked. Kano discuss ICE $200 million funding, target 25 million Nigerians. Stybig IBTC dominates retail SMEs hacking banking segment in the KPMG's 2023 Customer Experience Survey. Stybig IBC dominates retail and SME banking segment in the KPMG's 2023 Customer Experience Survey. Bond rally eludes Nigeria as forex crisis lingers. You can start reading that story on the front page and continue on page 28. And that's all on Business Day newspaper, and also how far we can go on the program this morning. Thank you, Rachel, for doing this with me. And thank you to our callers who call on the program. We're truly grateful for your intelligent contribution on the program. Thank you to our supporters and every other person that made this program a success. Until we come your way next week, do have a blessed weekend ahead.